Hey everyone, Ronan here, and welcome back to the channel. We got another new part for this new series, What If Jessi and James Challenge the Sinnoh League. But before we get into that, we gotta shout out the patron as usual. So Christian Tally, thank you very much for your support over on Patreon. And also, you guys, analytics are very important, so please take a look at these numbers right here, plus the subscribe versus unsubscribe. Don't forget to drop a like and a comment to help fuel the algorithm. And if this is your first time here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that way you'll never miss another upload from the channel. And if you want to support the channel even further, please consider becoming a YouTube channel member or a patron. You get exclusive access to content that I don't normally show here on YouTube, plus you get a week early access to all the content that I do put out on YouTube. But with all that being said, let's get into What If Jessi and James Challenge the Sinnoh League Part 3. I hope you enjoy. We begin today's episode with Jessi, James, and Meowth as they are on their way to Eternia City. However, the trek has not been an easy one, as they've been on the road for a little over a week now, and they're finding that the wilderness of the Sinnoh region, while very beautiful, it is frigid and very vast. Not to mention that it is very, very wild. While in the northern part of the world and boasting a bit of a cooler climate, that doesn't leave the region lacking in a vast variety of different environments and climates. And here we find our trio as they are trekking through somewhat of a swampy territory, as they are trying to reach their way to a place called Eterna Forest, which is said to sit just outside of Eterna City to the west. And this is where we find the trio arguing, as they're not too fond of the area they're in, as it's more of a marshy plain. Meowth complimenting that the mud is getting all the way up to its chin and it can barely reach the bottom of the bog, while Jessi and James argue over who's taking the longest to get through everything, with the redhead blaming James that they're in this situation because he was unwilling to work things out with his family. However, James reminds Jessi of Jezebel and how they didn't exactly see eye to eye, and he even boasts that she even seemed to be jealous when the redheaded was demonstrating her feelings and intentions towards the purple-haired man, which this statement causes a brief bit of backlash from Jessi as she scolds James, reminding him that the only reason why she didn't like Jezebel around was because she thought she was going to be the queen of the flock, when in reality there's only room for one, and that being Jessi herself. She wasn't going to allow her minions to be ruled by another. But as Jessi's tirade goes on, she can't help but to swat away at the different bug Pokemon that are around here. More importantly, the one that is known as Yanma is very prevalent in this area, as it seems to be the one that is attacking the trio as they're making their way through essentially what is the territory of the bug type. And to say that there is an abundance of the dragonfly Pokemon would be an understatement, as Yanma is the most common Pokemon in this area of the marsh, and it's getting to the point that Jessi is beginning to grow frustrated and she wants to take the fires of her fury out on all of these bug types. So she decides to demonstrate that with an actual fire type, as she calls on Numel and tells it to use an ember to fry all of the bug type Pokemon. However, there's one thing that Jessi has forgotten about the little fire type, as it spent most of its time with Cassidy and then with Domino, as she didn't have its Pokeball. She neglected to remember that it takes a while for Numel to get started, and until it's actually warmed up, it's not going to be really of much use, as the ground fire type just kind of stands waist deep in the mud, looking at Jessi with a clueless look on its face. This causes her to get even more frustrated, which forces James and Meowth to ask her to calm down and get before she makes a rash decision. However, it's too late, as her brain has already tuned those two out and her hand wields the Pokeball of the most powerful and most unruly Pokemon that she possesses, as she calls upon Exploud, which is immediately bombarded by all of the bug type Pokemon. However, unlike Numel, who has no motivation, Exploud's annoyance matches Jessi's, as it lets out a loud hyper voice that echoes throughout the marsh, causing all of the Yanma to become disoriented as they begin to fly into each other and then into the surrounding trees. This forces all of the bug types to begin attacking each other, which Exploud takes great pleasure in watching all of their disorientation, but that doesn't mean that it's going to sit out, as it decides to go on a rampage and starts attacking anything that gets close to it, while Jessi commands it to just deal with the bug problem. However, the normal type isn't going to take too kindly to the redhead's orders, as it begins to turn its fury on her. This immediately causes Jessi to wince, as she knows that she's about to be the target of all of its aggression. But luckily, before Exploud can actually make a move on her, she manages to return it to the Pokeball, as it lets out another massive hyper voice that begins to drive off all of the Yanma, that is, all of them except for one. As X-Cloud vanishes within the ball, it leaves in its wake one Yama that's flinching in the mud as it's trying to recover from the shock from the massive amount of sound that it just had to endure for being so close to X-Cloud. Saying this, both James and Meowth begin to feel sorry for the bug type. However, Jessi doesn't, as they were all an annoyance, but she's glad that they've all dispersed now. So she begins to trek on back through the marsh, leaving James and Meowth behind. But they command the redhead to stop, telling her that they need to do something about it. While the Yama were annoying, they didn't deserve this type of fate, to which Jessi lets out a loud growl of frustration before throwing a Pokeball at the Yama, telling them, "There, see, now the problem's been dealt with. I'll just take it and we'll get it checked out of the Pokemon Center and then release it later. Now, you two need to stop messing around. We need to get to Eterna City. We have very important things that we need to take care of." Jessi then recalls Numel, as she had almost forgot the fire type as it was stuck in the mud, before turning and setting off with the frustration driving her through the marsh, leaving James and Meowth just to look on, completely dumbfounded about the entire situation. "Man, I hope she's not going to be like this the entire way to Eterna City," James says, to which Meowth reminds him that this is how she always acts, so they really won't get any type of break, which causes them both to sigh before they slowly push their way through the mud, hoping to catch up to Jessi before she manages to get out of sight. After another couple of days of struggles and some less than ideal situations for sleeping, our favorite terrible trio is finally able to make their way out of the bog and through Eterna Forest before finding themselves in the very, very beautiful Eterna City. Both James and Meowth are just happy to be out of the wilderness and back into some sort of society, while Jessi, on the other hand, immediately has her eyes set on the gym. However, James and Meowth both remind her that they should probably check out the Pokemon Center. After all, she still has that Yanma that she caught, and the rest of their Pokemon could probably use a good looking over and maybe a bath, as do the whole group, considering they were just sleeping inside of a bog for the last week. Jessi begins to scold the two, reminding them that they're on a time crunch. However, when she begins to smell herself in mid-tirade, she relents, telling them that maybe it would be a good idea, and that she's glad she thought of it, before taking off in the direction of the Pokemon Center, confident in her decision is leading the group in the right direction, leaving James and Meowth just to stare on, slowly following behind her, just trying to ignore the complete and total hubris of Jessi. This leads the trio to the Pokemon Center, where they're able to get a room for the day, as well as getting their Pokemon checked up on, and some much needed hygiene improvements, considering they all look like they had just been living in the mountains for a couple of decades. The first to be done with their personal grooming is Meowth, as the Scratch Cat doesn't really like water, and it tends to be rather quick when bathing. This leads it into the main lobby of the Pokemon Center, as it's able to use its guise as an actual Pokemon to get close to other humans and sort of eavesdrop on any type of information that he might be able to gather. While most of it seems to be of non-importance, there is one thing that catches the Scratch Cat's attention. Two of the locals are complaining about a building that was just erected north of the city. It doesn't fit in, as it's very modern and very technological. This immediately catches Meowth's attention, as he thinks that this may be a place of interest, and it being a small Pokemon that nobody would really pay attention to, he is just the right candidate to go check it out. With his new mission in mind, he begins to head back to the room that Jessi and James are in, only to find the two in mid-argument over who's going to get to use the hairbrush first, as they both need to maintain their feminine wiles. However, Meowth immediately hits it with the Fury Stripes across the face of the two, reminding them that they don't have time for petty squabbles like this. He's got a lead that he's going to go check out within the city, and he'll be back within a couple hours. They need to stay out of trouble while it's gone, or they're going to catch another swipe of his claws. Jessi immediately tries to retaliate to the Scratch Cat, but before she can say anything, Meowth has vanished, as it's very intent on getting this job done and over with. So, with the target of her aggression now gone, Jessi decides that she needs another outlet, so she turns to James, to which the man immediately thinks that she's going to unleash on him. However, she tells him to get dressed. They need to head to the gym. She needs to let out some of this rage that she's had pent up over the last week, and a gym battle would be the perfect way to do it. While those two are getting ready, we catch up with Meowth, as it's made quick work of making its way through the city, heading north trying to find anything that doesn't look familiar. However, the Scratch Cat isn't going to have to look hard, as when it gets past a tree line that seems to be blocking the rest of the city from the northern half, he immediately spots something that sticks out like a sore thumb. Yeah, that building has bad guy written all over it, Meowth says. It kind of reminds him of the Team Rocket HQ. If I was an evil organization, that might be a place where I'd set up shop, the Scratch Cat thinks to himself before he runs off in the direction, looking for any type of entrance that it can get into. Back with Jessi and James, they have begun their trek through the city as they are trying to find the place where the gym is. While Eterna City doesn't have a lot of buildings, the fact that a lot of them seem to be hidden by trees makes things a bit complicated, and the two have to keep stopping to ask for directions, which causes a lot of the old local town people to question if Jessi and James happen to be a couple because they look so cute together. This causes Jessi to get a bit upset, while James just laughs at her complete and total irritation at the whole subject. However, eventually they're able to find the right direction, and someone points them down the road heading towards the gym. The two immediately take off as they're trying to get past any more questions from anybody that may have some sort of stupid remark to make. But unfortunately for the duo, they're gonna get stopped when James spots something. It looks like, yeah, that's right, it is what I think it is, James says, as he can see a giant banner hanging outside that says Contest Hall. This causes him to stop dead in his tracks, which Jessi begins to scold the man, telling him that they need to hurry up. They have a gym battle to get to, and if they don't get this badge, then they're not going to be able to do any more investigating for the day. However, Jessi's tirade fury is going to be stopped when James looks at her with a very serious tone and tells her to stop. That's enough. He's not going to be going to the gym, which causes the redhead to freeze as she's not really sure on how to respond. She's never really seen this side of James before, to which the purple man hair goes on to continue stating that he doesn't want to take the gym challenge. He didn't know that Sinnoh had contest halls, which means that if they have contest halls, then they have a grand festival, to which Jessi says so? It doesn't matter. They have an assignment, and they have things that they need to do, which is also including getting the gym badges, which will allow them to battle their Pokemon and become stronger as trainers, just like it did while they were in Hoenn. However, James reminds Jessi that they were split up a long time while they were in Hoenn, and while they were split up, he had the chance to compete in some contests, and it was something that he really enjoyed, something that he wouldn't mind doing again. So James tells Jessi that she's going to be heading on to the gym alone. He's going to head into the contest hall as he wants to get an idea and some more information. If Sinnoh does really host the grand festival like Hoenn did, then he wants to be part of it, and he plans on signing up today at this contest, to which causes Jessi to become irritated. Fine, do what you want, she says, but don't come crying to me when you can't win a ribbon, and I have a shiny new badge to add to our first one. Jessi then storms off, leaving James there in front of the contest hall. However, the man is unfazed, as this is something that he actually wants to do. It's something he enjoys to do, and believe it or not, even though it's not them challenging the gyms, it's not in direct conflict with his main task for Team Rocket, which is something that has James super excited as a smile crosses his face before he takes off running towards the entrance of the contest hall. This leaves Jessi as she is completely furious to head straight down the road looking for the gym, and she's so mad that she nearly passes it, not really paying attention, as the frustration of what James had just pulled is still dead set in her mind. But luckily, after a tree branch smacks her in her face and causes her to stop, she sees that she has just begun to pass the gym, and she backtracks a little until she gets inside. But that doesn't mean that her fury has subsided. No, no, no. The tree branch has caused a little bit more to stir up inside of her, and she barges in the gym, demanding to see the gym leader, as she is here for a gym battle. This is where an auburn-haired girl stands up and introduces herself as Gardenia, the leader of the gym, and she wasn't expecting any challengers today, but she's more than happy to accept Jessi's challenge, to which the fiery redhead tells her, good, because I plan to win me a badge today, and after all the bad luck and the frustrating things that I've been having to deal with over the last couple of weeks, you are going to be the perfect person to take out my aggression on. This just leaves Gardenia completely stunned, as she's never really had an opponent like this enter her gym before. This brings us to follow up with Meowth. The Scratch Cat has been very aloof and stealthy, making its way into this giant, god-awful building that stands in the middle of this forested city. While Meowth seems to be very stealthy in its approach, it can't help but notice that there are a lot of people here that seem to be focused on a common goal. But there is one thing that has caught the Scratch Cat's eye in particular. They all share the same uniformed look, bowl cuts and a uniform with a giant G in the center of it. Compared to Team Rocket, these guys look like nerds cards at a comic book convention. But the Scratch Cat keeps his suspicions to himself, as there's a lot of things that he needs to take in, as this facility is rather large, and he needs to make sure that he gets whatever intel that he can, as this place seems to be exactly what they were looking for. Making his way through the building and keeping to the shadows, Meowth wanders from room to room, trying to find any type of info that it can get its paws on. However, with each turn, it just seems like it's that much more fruitless, as there doesn't seem to appear to be any importance in anything that is happening inside of this place. However, the Scratch Cat is beginning to lose hope, as it doesn't seem like these guys have any type of evil or dastardly plans. For the most part, everybody that he's ran into seems to be clueless. That is, until someone with the same type of bowl cut as the rest of them, but a darker blue hair comes into the picture, as Meowth hears him talking about something that involves a massive amount of energy that they need to achieve their goals. Intrigued by this statement, Meowth decides that it's going to tag along and try and find out any type of information from this individual that it can. This is where we follow up with James, as he has entered the contest hall and has begun perusing around, very intrigued by this entire environment. The fact that Sinnoh has contests has the purple-haired man tickled pink. He can't wait to get his chance to enter, and the contest hall is overwhelming with potential young coordinators and what seems to be like seasoned vets of the contest scene. There's even a couple of trainers that he recognizes from former Hoenn events that have made their way out to Sinnoh. However, they weren't too advantageous in the whole Hoenn bracket, so they didn't do too well. But this doesn't change the purple-haired man's outlook on anything. He wants to get a chance to enter this thing, and he thinks he has the perfect lineup to do it. So the purple-haired man makes the attempt to approach the front desk, so that way he can make his way into the contest. However, this is where he's going to find out from the receptionist that the contest isn't actually being held today. He still has some time. As a matter of fact, he has about a week until the next contest is going to be held. Unlike the Hoenn region, here in Sinnoh, contests are held multiple times throughout the year per city. So if James happens to lose at this one, he'll have a chance to compete in another Eterna contest, as they're held about 3 weeks apart from each one. This makes James extremely excited, as if he doesn't win, that means that he'll get another chance, and he'll actually get the ability to make his way into the Grand Festival, which is something that excites him beyond belief. He thanks the receptionist and then turns to depart from the contest, only to see that there is a familiar face from the Hoenn region that he recognizes, the president of the contest associations, Mr. Contesta. The man looks very excited to be starting the next season of the contest, as he's given a press interview declaring that this is going to be the most thrilling one that has ever taken place within the region. This gets James's blood boiling, as it makes him even more intrigued. This is the first time since he's been in Sinnoh that he's actually excited about something other than the fact that he managed to get Carnivine. However, there's still the problem of an actual routine. He needs to get it down, as when he was in the Hoenn contest, he realized that he didn't really have any type of pizzazz. Luckily, the man's natural finesse when it comes to putting together outfits and stuff like that is going to serve him well here, as James has a few ideas that's going to get him the top spot in his mind. So, with a new plan in place and a new enthusiasm about the region that he's in, James sets off back to the Pokemon Center to begin his planning. This brings us back to the gym with Jessi and Gardenia, as the gym leader is still trying to figure out exactly what Jessi's issue is. However, she knows one thing is for certain. A challenge is a challenge, and despite the attitude of this redhead, she's going to have to accept it no matter what. So she informs Jessi that if she's here for a gym badge, then she'll get one. But please, not to be so aggressive, as there's no need for such hostility. After all, they're not enemies here. They're just rivals in this entire gym challenge. While Jessi recognizes the validity in Gardenia's statement, she doesn't actually have the ability to calm down, as she's still a little bit peeved after what James had said to her, and the fact that he had abandoned her in her time of need to go pursue the contest. However, this is still not going to interrupt the fact that they're going to have a gym battle, and Gardenia tells the redhead to take her side of the battlefield. They'll do a 2-on-2, as it seems like Jessi may be in a hurry to get out of here, because her priorities may be laid somewhere else, as the redhead is staring off into space thinking about what she's going to do to James when she gets back to the Pokemon Center. However, the fact that Gardenia mentioned that they're going to do a 2-on-2 brings her back to reality, as she smirks, stating that she'd be more than happy to have one of those with this gym leader. What was your name again? To which Gardenia responds with her name, telling Jessi that she should focus, otherwise she's going to lose this battle. This comment gets under Jessi's skin a little bit, as she declares she doesn't need to focus anymore. She has all of the power she needs right here, as she holds up a Pokeball. before telling Gardenia to call the start of the match. She would like to get this underway so that way she can get her second badge of the region, to which she flashes the badge from the Sunnyshore's gym. This catches Gardenia's attention, as the Sunnyshore's gym is supposed to be the most powerful in all of the region. So if she managed to beat Volkner on her first try, that means that this girl must really be something. Gardenia better be careful, as she tells Jessi that she hopes she's ready for one of her strongest Pokemon, as she declares to send in her Turtwig, which the little Sinnoh grass starter hits the battlefield, ready to take on any challenge that Jessi can present it, to which the redhead happily engages with it, deciding that she's going to fight fire with fire, or foliage in this case, as she declares, "Laleep, you're up, precious," to which the fossil of the Hoenn region pops from its ball, hitting its suction cups onto the battlefield, preventing it from swaying back and forth as it stares down Turtwig. However, this has a response from the gym leader that Jessi wasn't expecting, as Gardenia begins to fangirl out over the fact that she has a Laleep. She's always wanted one of those, as it's one of her favorite grass Pokemon. However, they're not really common here in the Sinnoh region, and that's a shame, because she knows that one day she'll have to travel to the Hoenn region and hopes to find one. However, that's for another time, as she declares the start of the battle, catching Jessi off guard as she orders Turtwig to rush in. Jessi immediately tries to put up a defense by calling for an Ingrain from Laleep. However, this isn't going to do much, as she quickly finds out why Gardenia decided to go with Turtwig, as it demonstrates a mastery of the battlefield that it has called home for so long, with an impressive speed that a grass type really shouldn't be capable of. And it's a good thing that Jessi set up that Ingrain right away, as Turtwig is immediately able to strike with a tackle into Laleep that seems to hit for some massive damage, far more than Jessi was expecting. However, the Ingrain allows Laleep to maintain its ability to stay on the battlefield by getting back some of that much needed HP that it just lost. This immediately causes Jessi to go on the retaliation with an acid in hopes of causing some super effective damage to Turtwig. However, this isn't going to go exactly the way she had planned, as Gardenia immediately counters with something called a Leaf Storm. Suddenly, a barrage of leaves envelop the entire battlefield, as Jessi's Hoenn fossil is consumed by the tornado of foliage. Before she knows it, the leaves disperse, only to find that Laleep is unconscious in the middle of the battlefield, much to the surprise of both her and Gardenia. Jessi recalls her grass type, as the gym leader states she was expecting more from someone that had managed to beat the gym leader in Sunnyshore's City. However, Jessi says nothing, as that loss was exactly what she needed to come back down to Earth. Well, I hope your next Pokemon is going to be a lot stronger than that, as even though Laleep is one of my favorite grass Pokemon, yours seems to be a bit undertrained. While Jessi was beginning to get a wake-up call, the comment that Gardenia had made towards her Laleep is immediately triggering, as she decides that she's not going to fool around anymore, pulling out the ball for a Pokemon that's going to give her a sure win. Nummel, precious, you're up. As the Hoenn fire type emerges from its Pokeball, it lets out a long-drawn yawn, as Jessi hasn't even used it since the last time it tried to battle Yama. This immediately gets the redhead fired up, as she tells it that this isn't the time for it to try and go to sleep. She needs it to battle now, as they're in the middle of a gym challenge, and she will not accept loss as an option. However, this doesn't change the response time as Nummel, as once again, it requires time to get warmed up, but Gardenia immediately calls for the start of the second battle, with Jessi trying to put up some sort of defense calling for an Ember. But unfortunately, Turtwig is able to outpace the fire type, as it is still moving slow, and immediately hit it with another tackle. This puts it within range, to which Jessi thinks that she can finally strike it with a takedown. However, Nummel once again is moving slow, and the impressive speed of the turtle is able to allow it to easily dodge the takedown before striking with a leech seed that envelops Nummel and begins slowly sapping it of all of its health, replenishing anything that Turtwig may have lost during the last two battles. This puts Jessi in a very, very bad position, as Nummel is now unable to really move, and not that it could before. Now the redhead has to face the chance that she could actually lose this, but unfortunately, before she can react to anything and give a Nummel command, another Leaf Storm is called for from Gardenia, and Turtwig unleashes another barrage that begins to envelop Nummel. Now, while this wasn't a one-hit KO by itself, as the attack is weakened, as Jessi comes to find out that with each consecutive use, the power is less and less, it doesn't change the fact that Nummel did take a lot of damage there. And with the stacking up of the Leech Seed, this is going to be nothing but an uphill battle. This immediately gets Jessi all fired up, as she demands that Nummel do something about this, use an Amber and burn away the Leech Seed. However, instead of calling for an attack, Gardenia tells Jessi to stop. This is embarrassing. How could you, have beaten the Sunny Shore Gym. The way you handle your Pokemon is downright disrespectful, and the fact that you can't even react to how your Pokemon battle makes me question the means on how you got that beacon badge from Volkner. I'm disqualifying you from this gym battle, and I'm going to ask you to leave, and don't come back until you learn how to respect your opponent and your Pokemon. Gardenia then recalls Turtwig and thanks it for all of the time that it put in, before turning and walking away, leaving Jessi and Numble standing on the battlefield as the redhead begins to fume at the years and placing all of the blame on her fire type. Now we follow up with Meowth as he's been tailing that blue-haired man that he's come to learn is known as Commander Saturn. Meowth has been using the air vents to stay hidden from the blue-haired man as it traverses the base, trying to follow it from room to room. This has allowed the Scratch Cat to pick up some pretty interesting information, however, none more so than what it's about to learn, as the one known as Commander Saturn enters his own personal quarters, and from the vent, Meowth watches as he begins to dial up a phone, and on the screen in front of them appears a man that seems to have an emotionless face. Master Cyrus, we were almost prepared to move on the Valley of Windworks, which causes the man on the screen to crack a slight smile, pleased with this declaration. Good, we need the energy from that place, as it's going to make the creation of our new world that much sweeter. And this is where we are going to leave things for now. So tell me, how did you feel about this? What did you think about James's sudden transition to want to compete in contest instead of the actual gym challenge? How did you feel about Jessi's gym battle with Gardenia and the way she handled it, and the fact that she got disqualified because Gardenia didn't like the way she was treating her Pokemon or her opponent? And how about this information that Meowth has learned? How is it going to play into the role that Team Rocket is going to have in the Sinnoh region overall? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below.